Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network, joins us, and we'll get into the NFL coaching carousel and all that too, including the Cowboys. Zach, I love the game. I like what we have. I think both teams showed and earned where they are. Both of them were tested, but your thoughts about two big alpha brands? There would have been two other big alpha brands, but they lost, but Penn State out and Texas out.
Yeah, I think the first takeaway is both the adversity that these programs have overcome. You know, Notre Dame, after they lost to NIU, a lot of people, even though there was still a road for them to get to the playoff with the 12-team format, thought their season was over. And I kind of said this: if they win the national championship game on Monday night, remember the year where Virginia lost to UMBC and then the following season they won the national championship? Well, that would be the college football equivalent of pretty much just like losing to a 6-team and then winning a national championship later on in the year to do it in one season. So that's the takeaway there with Notre Dame, and incredible leadership by Marcus Freeman, who a few years ago also lost to Marshall and Stanford, and then this year lost to Northern Illinois. And for Ohio State, you know I like to poke fun at Ryan Day a lot. He's not my favorite person, favorite coach in the world. I understand that. But with Ryan Day, after that Michigan game, he was called every name in the book and made fun of, and that was it for him at Ohio State. But he still had, you know, the best team in the country, and they dominated Tennessee. They just embarrassed Oregon. And this past game, man, it was close. I had a feeling it was going to be closer than what people thought, but Jack Sawyer made a huge play on fourth down. But let's also be real, going back to second down, I am still incredulous, and I mean incredulous, over what Steve Sarkisian did. To line up out of the gun there, be 6 yards off your center, and then have a running back 3 yards behind him and pitch the ball out there and basically be 9-10 yards away from the end zone. Still doesn't make sense to me, but give credit to Ohio State. Great teams find the way to win when they don't play their best, and they did that on Friday night.
What was your reaction, Zach, when that play unfolded with Sawyer? And just, I mean, the moment could not have been any bigger, fourth down, and just watching that, I mean, was your jaw dropped like everyone else's, I would imagine? So it's weird because it's a great play, like an unbelievable play. Assuming that Ohio State wins the national championship on Monday night, we'll see. That play just goes down in the annals of Ohio State lore and history. But I literally turned to the person I was watching the game with after the second down play call, and I said, game over. Even though it's only, you're at the 8 or the 9 yard line, and that's not crazy to go get 8 or 9 yards, I had zero confidence they were coming through on third or fourth down. So if you were a Texas fan, that just dumped a ton of salt into the wound that's the way that you get a touchdown and all that stuff that occurred right after it. But the game was over to me after the second and goal play call.
Yeah, that shotgun's a hell of a drug that I think coaches kind of get into and forget that, like, before that formation came along, there's 100 years of football, that it worked just fine under center. It's almost a trick play for some offenses.
That's far.
So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far, or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
I'm hearing far.
Forgiveness. Like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
It's so the Buffalo Wild Wing commercials where they're trying to extend the game.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of in the moment where Herbstreit and Fowler were panicking. They were Ohio State, the great defense and the goal line and all that stuff. And it was almost as if Sark had a headset on listening to the broadcast, and he started to panic. And everyone wanted that game to go longer. And in the Buffalo Wild Wings commercial, they usually make that the case. But in this case, Sark goes, yeah, I don't want to be here. I don't want to go to a national championship game. If you do that on fourth down, I'm okay with it. But you have to at least get to an opportunity for that to be what comes out of your bag of tricks. Because second down and goal, QB sneak, whether it's with Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, or run out of an I formation. I know they just did that the play prior. Maybe you go in between the guard and the tackle and get it a little bit off the center. But to have that be your play call and to panic then, on third down, you want to panic, fine. Fourth down, we see coaches run a pitch play all the time if they tried to run up the middle for 3 times. But to do that then, it was just, especially if they got the penalty earlier too, that got him down to the 1, just idiotic. Sark still has to be sick about it. I heard what he said after the game. If we just block, come on, coach. You got to be better in that spot. It was a bad job by Sark, and he has to know it by now.
Yeah, he tried to pull had we executed it correctly, it would have worked. Yeah, of course, that's the way it is on every play. But, I mean, how about –
and if I was able to go on a date with Beyonce, maybe I'd be married to her instead of Jay-Z. Come on.
How about the play, though, of Caleb Downs on that play, how he shot behind Kelvin Banks, and then what was it? Was it Ransom? Yeah. That shot, it got to the corner before Kelvin Banks. Had no chance. Two great players making great plays.
And you know what, Smokey, that's why you're one of the best, because you show what the other team did, right? I'm focusing on the negative. Sark, I've already said enough about him for the last few days. You're 100% right. Dumb play call still, but the athleticism by Ohio State and to step up in those moments and to make a play like that by multiple players, extremely impressive.
Yep. Zach Gelb with us, Infinity Sports Network with us on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour.
Zach, how perfect a game does Notre Dame have to play to win this?
I wouldn't say they have to play a perfect game. The Notre Dame formula is defense and special teams. That's how they win games. And ultimately, Riley Leonard can't make mistakes. Like, if he makes the mistakes that he made up against Penn State to Ohio State, then they're not going to win. You know, you got away with it up against Penn State because Drew Aller, man, what an overrated quarterback. So they need to just have Riley Leonard be a game manager on offense. Jeremiah Love, has to break out a big run and has to get into the end zone. But with defense and special teams, that's been the formula. It's not going to be easy on defense, but we've seen Notre Dame a few times. Their special teams loom large. When you go back to even in the first playoff game, the nice return that Faison had, then you had the return coming out of the half up against Georgia in the second game, and then we saw what Jeter was able to do with his special teams ability kicking the ball. So defense, special teams, the name of the game, and the offense. You're going to have to score points. Duh. There's the obvious statement, but you can't be turning the ball over to the other team.
It's interesting you mentioned Drew Aller because he's a guy who throws a really pretty ball, but obviously there are some other drawbacks there as well. And isn't it interesting of those four teams, as big and blue-blooded as they are, there was no elite quarterback. Ewers is an NFL quarterback. He's got some really good traits, but he's not excellent, right? He's not an all-timer. Leonard's not, Howard's not. And who am I missing there? Or I was talking about Drew Aller. Yeah. So yeah, it's I don't know. I don't really have a point to that other than I'm just kind of surprised there's not the big star quarterback when we got down to the nitty gritty.
We talked about it last week when we went through the four quarterbacks, and I said, I don't think Quinn Ewers is anything special, but he's the quarterback that I have the most confidence in just with how erratic the other three can kind of be. And Quinn Ewers, I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't take the $3-4 million and go somewhere else because you knew that they were handing the baton over to Arch Manning. But would I use a first-round pick on him right now? No, I would only use a first-round pick on two quarterbacks in this draft, and that's Shedeur Sanders and also Cam Ward. I have a day 2 draft grade on Quinn Ewers. Could he go in the first round? Yeah, because teams always overreach for quarterbacks. But, could he have gone to Ohio State or Oregon or, throw out any of these teams that we had the last few years? I think he could have.
Zach, your thoughts about did you get into much today of the Brian Kelly kind of retracting what he said about why he would go to LSU rather than Notre Dame where he had gone and played for a championship there?
Yeah, I don't know what's more fake, that quote or his accent when he says family with LSU. Yeah. We all know why you left. And to be fair, I understood at the time, because I didn't think he could win a national championship at Notre Dame. And at LSU, we've seen 3 coaches do so since 2000. I know one of them Saban, but Les Miles and Ed Orgeron being the other 2. So I don't fault him for what he did. It just has aged horribly. And let's be real, no one was talking about Brian Kelly, in South Bend saying, man, we don't miss him at all after Marcus Freeman lost to Northern Illinois. But now Marcus Freeman has won 3 playoff games, and he's beat 2 big boy programs, which that was the flaw for Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. He won all these games, restored them, brought stability back, made them respectable again, but they were stuck on good. And I don't know if I talked to you guys last week about this, but I talked to Manti Te'o, who played for Brian Kelly, and he said, hey, anyone could draw up X's and O's, but it takes a different person to connect with their players. And he said Marcus Freeman does it a whole lot better than Brian Kelly in that regard.
Remember the reaction when Kelly decided to leave and then Freeman walked into the locker or the meeting room with the players and the explosion? Yeah, it really did. Zach Gelb with us, Infinity Sports Network on 365 Sports.
All right, Zach, your thoughts on the Cowboys, Mike McCarthy, Deion Sanders, and now, according to Ian Rappaport, an interview with Robert Saleh.
A salute to Jerry Jones, because we all know he does not run his football team trying to win games anymore. It's all about creating drama. Yeah. He did the Jason Garrett playbook from a few years ago and then threw steroids on it when he waited until the contract to run out and announce it when the Eagles were playing the Seahawks in a playoff game. And this year he waits until Monday, denies the McCarthy request from the Bears, which even then I said, does Mike really want to stay here? And let's be real. Like, if Mike was getting an extension in Dallas, it was probably going to be 2 years. And McCarthy probably sat to himself and said, I could maybe get the Bears job. I could maybe get the Saints job, and they'll give me a 5-year deal. And I'm not doing anything better than what I've done, making the playoffs 3 times, 12 wins in all 3 of those seasons in Dallas. And I'll have an easier working relationship because, Jerry Jones meddles like no one else has ever before when it comes with running a football team. So I can't say I was surprised by it. I thought McCarthy should have told them to go pound sand. But the way that they wait until Monday, and you can't even let people process the news, and right away you throw out Deion Sanders and Jason Witten. I don't think either will be the head coach. If I had to take a guess right now, I would say it's Kellen Moore, which is funny to me because he's basically Jason Garrett. Like the other 31 teams, no one's giving Kellen Moore a head coaching job right now. I know he was a hot commodity a few years ago, but he's made a bunch of lateral moves since then. And I think Kellen Moore reminds me a lot like Jason Garrett, and it's someone that Jerry Jones can control. If I was running the search, and I don't think Belichick's going there because now he's at UNC, I would seriously think long and hard about hiring Pete Carroll. That's the first name that I think is realistic out there that I would go get, but I ultimately think it's going to be Kellen Moore.
Do you think that Robert Saleh will be good somewhere else? I mean, he had a bad owner and a space cadet quarterback past his prime, and the defense was legit. But when you have Aaron Rodgers, tearing his Achilles 4 plays into the first year, and then B, being 40 and weird in year 2, and that situation in the Jets front office, do you think maybe it's not with Dallas, I doubt Dallas hires him, but do you think that he will be a good head coach somewhere else?
I think he's more a defensive coordinator. My problem with Robert Saleh, I think he's just too nice of a guy.
Okay.
I think he's a player's coach, but he got to be a little bit of a doormat in New York, and that's problematic. But Robert Saleh's not a dummy. I know he's a consultant on the Packers staff, but what are you really doing? I saw Robert Saleh this past weekend. I was in the press box, Eagles and Packers. And if you're a consultant and you're doing things during the game, I don't know if you're coming out at halftime and going to get a hot dog and a chicken finger with the media and talking up the media member. So Robert Saleh has actually aged well, where when the Jets got rid of him, it's like, all right, this guy was a terrible head football coach. But then Ulbrich was even worse, Jeff Ulbrich, who replaced him. Then now people are like, Robert Saleh, we forget that he wasn't a good head football coach when he was with the Jets. There's a ton of excuses for him to make. Will he get another chance one day? Possibility. I see he's getting an interview now. But if he ends up getting hired by one of these 6 jobs left, that would surprise me.
Mike Vrabel seemed like just the most obvious slam dunk in the world for the Patriots. Of those jobs remaining, any thoughts on that you want to contribute if you so like by any means? But of the remaining jobs, which one, and you talked about the Cowboys, but which one's the most maybe intriguing to you? Bears, Jets, Jags, Raiders, Saints?
I think the Jaguars is the best job. Easier division. Tennessee stinks. Indianapolis is a joke. And the Texans, they're good, but are they an unbeatable team? No, I would not say that. And maybe you could fix Trevor Lawrence. You got Josh Hines-Allen as a pass rusher, and you got Brian Thomas Jr., who had a sensational season. LSU just keeps on putting unbelievable wideouts in the NFL. So Jacksonville would be priority number 1 for me if I was a prospective head coaching candidate. And also, I know they kept Trent Baalke, but the owner, Shad Khan, basically said if a coach makes a compelling enough argument on why you should get rid of Trent Baalke, which is not tough to do, that he would consider getting rid of Trent Baalke. So Jacksonville will be number 1 on my list. After that, it would be Chicago, just because of Caleb Williams, even though that ownership group is just absolutely terrible and horrible, and I don't trust Kevin Warren or Ryan Poles. But I'll tell you, I think Ben Johnson's going to end up as the Raiders coach. Brady did something that was savvy. They put lipstick on a pig. That's what they did. There's no reason to take that job. And they looked around. Jacksonville kept their GM. Chicago kept their GM. And they basically said, we don't have a quarterback. Yeah, we got Brock Bowers. Yeah, we got Max Crosby. We're going to fire a coach on a Tuesday and then fire the GM on a Thursday. I think that's Brady having a target, identifying it was Ben Johnson, and knowing Ben Johnson would not have taken that job if Tom Telesco was there. And Brady did everything possible to make a bad organization look better with the Raiders. And for Ben Johnson, let me be clear. If he ends up taking the Raiders job, which I think he will, this guy has totally lost me. He is a wonderful offensive coordinator, but you passed up on the Commanders job last year when you could have coached Jaden Daniels. And you have Jacksonville and Chicago with trying to fix Trevor Lawrence or going with Caleb Williams. And you're going to pick the Raiders when you're looking up at those other 3 teams in the division, and you don't have a quarterback right now. I understand alignment's big, and all these coaches tell you alignment. If you can't win games within 3 years in this league, if that, I don't care how aligned you are with the new GM, and if you pick him, you'll be out of a job. So that would be underwhelming if Ben Johnson ends up getting ooh and ahh'd, which I think he will, by Tom Brady.
All right, I think their run ends this week because Detroit, even with the injuries, are just so good. Great crowd. Washington, Garrett, our producer, Craig and I, Washington fans. It's just kind of like,
you guys don't even know what to do with yourself anymore.
No, in fact, at some point on Saturday, whenever they played, Sunday night, I was like, man, this is hard. Like, when you're not very good, you don't have to have the stress of a playoff game, and they're fortunate they won it. But your thoughts about what Jaden Daniels has done, and do they have a chance, barring Detroit throwing up on themselves, of winning Saturday night?
They have a chance. They got nothing to lose because this season, I don't care if they lose by 50 on Saturday. This is already a successful season. So I think they're going to lose the game like 30-20. I would lay the 9.5 right now, just slightly, because I think that they're begging you to take the Commanders plus the points. But you have a franchise quarterback, and the Commanders are back to being a respectable organization. And here's my hot take of the day: if Daniel Snyder still owned the team, and they were in that game, there is no chance that ball would have gone off the upright and in. I really do believe that if Daniel Snyder, with all the negativity he brings to an organization, that the football gods would have made sure that ball wouldn't have gone in. So that was the Commanders are now back. They have arrived. They have returned. And Jaden Daniels, the sky's the limit for him. He's sensational.
Yeah, if Snyder's the owner, that ball clunks, goes right. It does. It actually does.
You probably end up also like taking, not Jaden Daniels in the draft, and you end up picking the wrong quarterback too.
Yeah. Well, they had one that was the right one, but they didn't protect him, and he didn't protect himself in RG3.
Yeah.
I have one quick baseball question for you, Zach.
Okay.
What is going on with Pete Alonso? How come the Mets haven't gotten that done yet?
I think that Pete is having a tough time, and Scott Boras is having a tough time, where they know they got to eat some humble pie. Because they turned down a very lucrative offer a year ago. Pete bet on himself. I know he had some big postseason moments, but Pete Alonso didn't have a horrible season, but he didn't have we now got to go break the bank. I've also read a lot today that the Mets are trying to see what it would take to get Vladdy from the Blue Jays, which I'd rather have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. than Pete Alonso. And I love Pete. Hot take of the day, I know. So I think ultimately Pete's going to come back, but it's going to be an L for Pete because of how much money he left out there.
Yeah, it's amazing that there are still some pretty good players out there and have not yet signed with anybody. Everybody else good?
You guys going to the Super Bowl? Will I see you at the Super Bowl?
Yes, we will be there. Yeah,
perfect.
we're already confirmed for Radio Row that week, that Monday through, I guess, Thursday or Friday of the week.
I'll bring you some beads, Smokey, so you can throw them around and have fun.
Yes, sir.
I know
please
you like
do.
that.
Please, is that, by the way, a Nebraska golf shirt you're wearing?
Yes. I'm
That's
wearing
great.
a Nebraska polo. I look like I'm on the strength and conditioning staff, but I wouldn't say I'm that fit. So
you should no. If you want to pull that off, just pull up like a gallon jug of water with marks on it, and then people be like, "Oh man,
oh yeah, he's serious."
I lost a bet on a pick contest on the network, and we did a remote where I had to dress up as Matt Rule and be the valet attendant for the day and park listeners' cars. That's what I did.
Well, he did win 7. They did win a bowl game, for God's sakes. Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, Zach. We'll see you in New Orleans, okay?
You got it. Talk to you guys next week.
And hopefully maybe next week to wrap up the entire college football season.